Okay, welcome. Thank you for joining. And so nice to see you again, Brian. Today we're going to talk about what life looks like after the Candida Cleanser, the CCWS protocol, and how to continue healing. And often what happens is after the 45-day protocol, we've been working hard, cutting out the sugar and the carbs, and then the 45 days is up and you're like, I'm free! I can eat all the food again. I'm totally healed because I did the Candida Cleanser, I did the cleanse, and I'm done. And it's not like that, especially if you're in later stages of Candida, stage 3 or stage 4. If you've had Candida for a silent infection, like many of us don't really realize we have it until our symptoms become so big. But we could have an infection for 10 years, 15 years, just masquerading as malaise and normal symptoms of discomfort. So it's gonna take time to heal. So we're going to address healing leaky gut, how to continue healing, bringing harmony back to gut dysbiosis and what gut dysbiosis is, and then how to continue healing all the other organs in your body. Because when Candida is left to grow systemic, it doesn't just harm the gut. We not only just have to heal leaky gut, it also is in the other tissues in the body, in the joints, in the liver, maybe in the kidneys, maybe, little pockets like in your shoulder or in little parts of your brain. So it really focusing on the renovation of your entire body and your entire temple. So that's what we're doing. And Patty, did you want to start off with the first lesson?
Sure. So, of course, we've been covering some of this in our other live calls. So definitely, if you missed any of our other live calls, they're all up on YouTube. Our YouTube username is Candida Cleanser, so you can go to youtube.com/Candida Cleanser. And I've said this before, but after especially your first CCWS cleanse, that's kind of when your healing really begins, right? That's what I realized that's when my real healing began. Because number one, my immune system wasn't trying to fight the systemic fungal candida anymore. And so a lot of things were happening at that time. I was losing belly fat. My body was changing, my metabolism. I was learning aspects of my body for the first time. And I had what we call a raw gut, right? Because by removing the candida, it was actually in some ways removing this buffer, because candida kind of becomes this buffer in your gut that is digesting a lot of the bad stuff for you. And when it's digesting the bad stuff for you, then you don't feel the impact of irritating foods as quickly or as intensely. So even for myself, when I tried eating tomatoes, which I thought were totally fine, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm itching. I'm having all these little tingles and itches in my body. And they were everywhere. There was no rhyme or reason for where I was itching after I ate 3 bites of salsa, basically. And I didn't eat any grains. I was just testing with nightshades first, right? Because I had read the GAPS diet. And I didn't want to push it with grains yet because I knew that those were pretty bad for me. And I tried some tomato, and boom, I was itching by the end of that day and getting these little bumps, itchy bumps. And I was like, oh my gosh, my gut is still breached, right? There's still breaches in my gut. So for me, I had to get really real with myself. And I had to, at some point after not just testing tomato, but testing little chickpea and having a reaction, testing a tiny bit of white potato and having a big reaction, and then testing white potato again because I was addicted to potatoes once upon a time. And I must have triggered several big reactions thinking that I was ready when I wasn't. And then I finally went back and I said, okay, I'm going to do 6 weeks of the real GAPS intro and not cheat. And just not cheat at all, not test at all with certain foods. So I didn't do tomatoes, I didn't do nightshades, I didn't do any of the usual suspects. And I really just focused on my broth soups, really easy to digest soups, the vegetables that I knew I was okay with. And I also incorporated roasts because it was hard for me to eat soups every meal every day. So I also balanced it with some roasts or grilled vegetables. I could do grilled vegetables okay, and meats. And I did that for 6 weeks without testing anything that could potentially irritate my gut. And at the end of those 6 weeks, I tried a little tomato. Nothing. I didn't feel anything. I tried a little eggplant. I didn't feel anything. I tried to eat a raw salad, and actually I couldn't eat a raw salad. I saw it in my stool, and I was like, okay, I can't eat raw plants yet. So you'd think that a salad is like easy to digest, right? I thought that a salad would be easy to digest, but it actually wasn't, and I couldn't digest raw plant fibers yet. So it actually took my gut about a year to be able to eat a raw salad without seeing leaves in my poop. That was the state of my gut. But as long as I didn't try to eat a raw salad, I was fine. And I could eat these soups and these roasts and whatnot. But my safe foods, all of my safe foods started to expand, right? So I could eat nightshades again, like tomatoes and eggplants, but not potatoes for a while. And this is why we've talked about the GAPS diet, the GAPS intro. It is, in the beginning, kind of a strict process, but it's so worth it, because if you need it and you don't do it, you're kind of keeping yourself from totally healing and sealing your gut. And so I would say that is the most important thing for everybody who's ever had, especially a stage 2, but especially 3 or 4. If you're 3 or 4, I would say just do the GAPS from the intro. Just do it. It will be so worth it. You're going to learn everything about your body. And I'll pass it over to Aga to add to this as well. So she had some great.
It's going to be so much easier to do the GAPS after you've cleansed Candida and you've maybe perhaps experienced die-off, because those foods that you were once addicted to, without Candida in your body, you won't have those cravings. So it's actually a lot easier to go throughout the day and eat less. I eat once a day. I used to, we're also told by mainstream, have to eat 3 times a day and snack in between. Like, that is way too much food. I'll have, a smoothie in the morning, tea, and then like a larger meal at like 3 or 4, and then maybe a snack in the evening before 7. And that's as much as my body can handle. And I'm not craving sugar or chocolates or sweets anymore. So it's a lot easier to start doing elimination diets and restricting certain foods when there isn't that inner urge, like from Candida, trying to get at food all the time. So if you aren't able to do GAPS on the Candida cleanse because you're just succumbing to your cravings and you're just feel like you don't have any willpower, allow that process to play out. And then when it's done, you'll notice that at the end, there's more willpower and you can easily do GAPS protocol. And one thing I forgot to mention before we got into this topic is with Candida Cleanser, the CCWS protocol, how it works through the loading periods and the off periods is, on the loading periods, you absorb the lufeneron with your dietary fat into your body. And on the off period, your body is slowly releasing the lufeneron into your body so the Candida can scoop it up and begin to basically decompose its exoskeleton. So on your last loading day, your 5th loading period, you've loaded 3 times. There is a lot of this lufeneron in your system. And even after your 10 days off, it's still in your system for at least 2 weeks. So you're technically still cleansing for another 2 weeks, long after your bottle is done. So to keep that in mind, that just because the 45 days is up doesn't mean you can go have a free-for-all. And like Patty shared with her experience, like you might reinfect, you might cause more inflammation. So this time as if you have this fresh skin. Say, you know, if you've ever had like a big scratch on your arm or your leg and you've had this scab, you can imagine like Candida being that scabby layer. And if when you're peeling it off, there's that fresh skin underneath, and you want to take care of that fresh skin. Even for me, to give a good metaphor, is a few years ago, I put oil on my face that wasn't supposed to be exposed to the sun. It was bergamot. Never put bergamot oil and go out hiking for 8 hours. It pulls sun into your skin and gives you second and even third degree burns. So I had second degree burns all on my face, blisters and scab and pus. And when it finally healed, I had this baby skin, and I had to be really, really careful of what I put on there. And even though the scabs had healed, I was putting on vitamin E oil every day, coconut oil, really that baby soft skin, taking extra care. So you can imagine it's as if that 45-day protocol was healing all the pus. Not like there's literally pus in their intestines, but healing that scab and that irritated skin. And now it's this baby smooth skin. And you want to make sure that what you're eating isn't going in and just like scraping the walls again. It can really set you back. And I really encourage you to begin to dig into all the material we share about leaky gut and healing and the GAPS diet, so you can empower yourself with these food choices. And one of our clients, Amy, she is like the superstar example, such a motivation. She had 71 symptoms of Candida. She did 2 cleanses. I'm going to share her story here in the chat. Feel free to look her up. She has videos. She did 2 cleanses, and 68 of her symptoms that were basically Candida symptoms disappeared. Everything from fibromyalgia, depression, rashes, insomnia, like all these crazy symptoms. But she noticed there was 6 left. And she began to study the gut and understand that it was food intolerances. So she stuck to the strict GAPS, identified her food intolerances, and then was able to remedy those last symptoms. They weren't Candida. They can often get mistaken as Candida, but they were simply, she was eating things that her body wasn't ready for, and it was causing symptoms. And for me, when I eat a food now that I'm not ready for, my body just, it doesn't like, I know it's a heaviness in my body after I eat, almost instantly, like 20 minutes, a heaviness in the belly, fatigue, perhaps a minor headache, and just not feeling emotionally well, like not my best. And I, by default, am a bubbly, happy, optimistic person. Some days, I'll have my low days like we all do. But when this big like cloud of gloom and doom covers like my eyes and sits on my shoulders, I can tell like, oh, okay, this is not me. This is not mine. This is my body trying to work through something that I'm not supposed to be eating. And this type of communication and awareness of your body comes with practice. So I encourage you to start tuning in rather than just gobbling food down, making that connection that food drastically can affect mood and how you feel in your body.
And I want to add that it's really important to remember that if you have Candida, it's not just Candida. It's not just the Candida. Candida is a byproduct of some other issues. And therefore, some of the symptoms that are associated with Candida also have to do with the gut dysbiosis, right? So it's all connected. And that's why when you do heal the gut, then it's like, oh, wow, I no longer have all of these symptoms. And the food intolerances is part of that. There's also toxicity. Usually there's a lot of toxicity just from the Candida having been in your system pooping, because it's a living organism and it poops, it eats and it poops. And I remember before I found Candida Cleanser and before I super spiraled down, I was getting worried about my health because I was noticing like I would take a sip of alcohol And I would start to lose my motor functions. I would be stumbling, running into things, trying to reach for something and hitting it. And just all these things were off. And I was like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And I had to stop drinking alcohol. And that's because the Candida was in my system affecting my liver like alcohol. And I didn't know it. I had no idea. I didn't even know this until much later in my healing journey, once I started to understand the information and realizing, oh my gosh, that's what was happening back in 2010 and 2011. So, usually we need to work on the liver as well. And it actually can take time sometimes to heal the liver. A lot of us, because we were sugar and carb addicts, or maybe even overdoing alcohol, we may have developed some fatty liver. And that's actually the second leading cause of fatty liver disease is excess sugar and carb consumption. They've now proven that. So we may need to actually really focus on cleansing the gut, cleansing the liver, cleansing the organs, your kidneys, your spleen and pancreas, your whole endocrine system. And all of that affects your whole immune system, right? As well as the good bacteria in your gut really affect your good immune function. So, it is a holistic process. There are additional supplements and steps and processes that you can do that help repair your nervous system, the fight or flight response. We recently started talking about CBD oil, your endocannabinoid system. And it turns out that most humans on this planet today are deficient in cannabinoids because it was taken out of our food supply. And then in terms of detoxing, you also want to make sure you're detoxing heavy metals and all the toxins that have been accumulating in your body that could have also contributed to the candida overgrowth. And then also the toxins that come from the chronic stress. We actually produce endotoxins when you're in chronic fight or flight. So it's not even just the toxins that are coming from the outside world, but even the toxins that we create inside our bodies because we're in chronic stress. Those actually are known to really disrupt your hormones and your thyroid and your endocrine system as well. So there's a lot of things that we're dealing with here. And so it is a journey that, I would encourage you to be really patient and just always start where you are, where you can, one step at a time, and know that every step is worth it, right? And if ever you run into a stumbling block, if you hit an obstacle, to really try to forgive yourself and recommit and then keep moving forward one step at a time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also what it takes looking back and reflecting on your life where you perhaps have developed habits or behaviors that don't serve anymore. So alcohol was a big one for me growing up. Like I started drinking alcohol when I was 14 and basically every single weekend bottles of vodka until I was 21 working at the club, and it after a cleanse and as my life began to, well, first my life began to shift out of that world and then I found the cleanse. But I found that I couldn't relate to my friends anymore. I didn't share the same values. Going out on the weekend, a lot of people live for the weekend, especially like in my age or back then, it was like living for the weekend just so you can go out and have drinks with your friends and go get pizza. It's like, that's not what enlivens me anymore. I might have to reevaluate my values and find a new community, people who have the same interests. I want to like wake up Saturday morning and feel great and go to yoga or go for a run, right? I want to learn new ways of being, how to better take care of myself, start a self-care practice, do things that serve you and your values. So it takes looking back and seeing what you did that led up to you developing a condition or symptoms, because it didn't happen overnight, right? There was coping, maybe using food as a coping mechanism for your emotions because you don't know how to handle your stress. So putting better stress management in, self-care. So you're actually tuning into what your body needs each day, rather than just living in the mental realm. The supportive community, also like dental work, like if you've got amalgam fillings, get those out. Look at your hair products, your shower gels, your shampoos. There's so much toxicity around us, and how can you start living in a more natural way? Where can you make greener swaps, with your cleaning products, with your what's it like, dish soap? Like there's so much. And so begin to see the world in a different perspective of, where can I remove toxicity from my life, physically, emotionally, mentally? Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Aga, because while I was healing my gut, especially the first 2 years between 2013 and 2015, I had to learn how to create healthier boundaries. And it's a really amazing reflection to your gut boundary, right? Your gut lining, where I used to have like no boundaries, and I would just say yes to everything, say yes to too much sometimes, not being paid enough money, doing whatever, all the things. And I realized that when I went to events or parties, that before I did the cleanse, what I generally would do at a party was go straight to the food and just be like noshing on the food compulsively and talking to people at the food table, right? And I realized after the cleanse that was like a coping mechanism for like social anxiety. And I actually had to just not prioritize socializing for a while and really prioritize myself and my self-care and sticking to what I needed. And I did learn to I would actually eat before I went to certain events that I really did want to go to. I would also bring snacks with me, or I would bring beverages that were safe for me, because beverages are really hard. There's always a lot of sweet, sugary, or alcohol stuff. So it was really helpful for me to bring my own beverages to a party or something, and I would bring enough to share. And then I want to bring in this other element, which is I was a completely formula raised baby. And I watched this documentary called Fed Up. It's on Netflix, if you have Netflix. And I think it was released in 2014. And when I watched it, I sobbed because I was like, oh my God, the baby version of me. And it helped to explain a lot of my addictions, my food addictions. And it also explained why around that time, while I was still healing, I was also healing a brain chemistry thing that had to do with the sugar, because they've proven sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine, right? It messes with your chemistry. And around that time, I noticed when I went to a grocery store like Vaughn's, I don't know what grocery stores are near you, but it's like the big main grocery store. It's like a lot of conventional stuff, a lot of packaged foods. And nowadays they have more organic choices, but I would walk into Vaughn's and all of a sudden I felt next to suicidal. I would just get really dark and I'd be like, oh my God, I need to get out of here. Like I need to get whatever I need to get and just get out of here. And I couldn't even process everything I was processing. And with time, I realized that my body chemistry was actually responding to all of the triggers around me unconsciously. And so if you think about somebody who's trying to quit cocaine, right? And they've been addicted to cocaine for 33 years. That was me, like addicted to crack carbs for 33 years and sugars. And then I quit. And then you go out and you're like, oh my God, there's cocaine everywhere. Everybody's doing cocaine. Even little children are doing cocaine. Oh my God, there's signs for cocaine and there's cocaine everywhere. What am I going to do?
There's cocaine in my ketchup.
And that's why I would get so deeply depressed when I walked into a Vons. I couldn't go into Trader Joe's. The ones that were okay were Whole Foods. Like I was okay with Whole Foods because there were so many options at Whole Foods. I didn't get that same feeling. It was like a different vibration. But certain grocery stores, I literally couldn't walk in and I would start to act like a child having a tantrum. Like my partner tried to take me to Trader Joe's one time and I just turned into this little child and I was like, no, I can't eat anything in here. Oh. And I was like, we have to leave. And he didn't quite understand what I was going through at the time. So this sometimes happens, and you can get triggered. You can feel triggered, or you can feel, especially by social situations, going to when other people don't understand what you're going through. I was at a restaurant with another couple, and they wanted to order pie. And my partner made a little teasing joke. He was like, "Oh, it's not Patty approved." I started crying in the restaurant, and I was like, "Oh my God, I can't even stop it," you know? And so just know that you are not alone. It's not weird, or just if something like that happens to you, or if you feel extra emotional out of nowhere because something or somebody says something. I think one of the worst things is when somebody says, "Oh, but you can just have a little bit of something," right? And that was one of the reasons why I was like, you know what? I just got to take care of me. I don't need to go to these parties, and I don't need to talk about what I'm going through or my diet or my food or what. I don't want anybody trying to like influence me. And I just have to focus on what I need to do because I know what I need to do right now.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually my chemistry balanced itself. I don't feel that way when I go to Vaughn's anymore. I am more aware of what my brain is picking up on. Like literally I'll see people are not well. I'll see what they're consuming, and it's like, oh wow, that's, these are all the things that my brain was like registering very quickly when I would walk in.
Mm-hmm.
And my system just got overwhelmed. And now I have more compassion, I have more awareness, and I'm more centered in my being. My chemistry is more even. So, we have to focus on our own healing first, right? Put your own oxygen mask on first, and then you help other people.
Yeah. The boundaries thing is a big thing, right? Like I had it as well, where people are like, oh, you can't have this. The word can't, or I can't have this, or, you're not allowed. I'm not allowed. We need to remove that way of thinking. That's victim mentality. That's deprivation, starvation. If you can switch to, I don't want that, actually. Why would I want to eat something that gives me pain? Right? I love myself so much that I'm only eating foods that make me feel fantastic. So someone asks you, like, can you have some? No, I don't like that. I don't like how lie to yourself. I don't like how it tastes. I actually don't like sugar. Potatoes are gross. You can have it. I'm fine. Like that way people are like, oh, okay. But if you say I can't, they're like, oh, come on. It's this weird thing. I call it dietism. People like really pushing, like getting offended of your dietary choices. Like I get it all the time still at my grandma's, right? She cooks with flour and potatoes, and I'll stick with my vegetables, and she'll like, come on, and she'll push it on me. And I said, I just don't like how it tastes, and it makes me feel gross. And it clicked in her head. She went, oh, when you eat this, how do you feel? I'm like, well, I get depressed for a week, and then I get really bloated and this and that. And she's like, oh yeah, don't eat that. And she like took it away from me. She's like, no. And if you can like paint a picture for somebody of why you're choosing not to, I find that helps with the peer pressure. They step back and they begin to like now my grandma and my friends will like make meals for you. They're like, oh, there's no gluten in this. I use quinoa flour. And you're like, great, thank you. I thank you for that. And over time now, like it's not even, I'm not even tempted with those food. It's literally just like, no, it's the reprogramming has happened. The biochemistry has changed. And now it's the other way around. People are like, you look really good. What, your skin is real. How old are you? Wow, what do you do? I'm like, well, I barely work out anymore. I do yoga once a week, but I eat very well. It's like actually 99.9% is what you eat. And people are curious now. People want to adopt what I'm doing, and that there is that like that pendulum does swing to the other side when you've cultivated that self-love, you've created those boundaries, and you're centered and grounded, and now you're this beacon of inspiration for people. And it's a really beautiful thing. And it happens to, so like all these testimonials that you read about in our success stories, they become the person that their sick friends come to. They're like, you used to be sick, you look great now. What did you do? Guide me through it. And they become, a few of them have started YouTube channels. They're motivational speakers in our group. It's beautiful, and this is what happens when you cultivate that centeredness in yourself, and it's recognizable, the changes. So inevitably, this is what we want for you as well. And so this next thing, before we open up the line, the last thing I wanted to mention is the best liver cleanse that we have found so far. Actually, Patty, you introduced it to me.
Yes. So I did throw up the link for the hemp oil webinar, which we actually talk about the ultimate detox system in this webinar as well, because it's a similar technology that make both the hemp oil and this detox system so profoundly effective. And it's something called nanoliposomal technology. And it's created by a really incredibly genius biochemist, Dr. Christopher Shade, whose whole life's work is about how do you get the toxins out of the soil and our bodies, and how do you get the actual nutrients and these compounds into your cells so that your cells can function and repair themselves. And so the heavy metal detox system is this liposomal delivery, and it has liposomal milk thistle, dandelion, solidago, myrrh, alpha lipoic acid, quercetin, and so many other things, bitter herbs that help to stimulate bile flow. And because it is delivered through this liposomal delivery, it's absorbed within the 30 seconds that you hold it under your tongue. And it's absorbed in your mouth because that nano liposomal is teeny tiny size molecules of these liposomes that are wrapping the nutrients inside them. And it goes into your bloodstream very quickly, and within 30 minutes, it's actually making all of these metabolic processes happen in your body, helping your liver cells function and detox and repair themselves, helping to stimulate bile flow, which most of us who have had gut dysbiosis and candida, especially stages 2, 3, 4, we tend to have really poor bile flow. So it stimulates your bile flow. And then after 30 minutes on the dot, you're supposed to then chug this mega binder, and it's also a binder similar to Zeoco, but it also has some other ingredients in it as well that help to repair the gut lining. And it's a proprietary formula from Dr. Christopher Shade. So he actually really understands leaky gut and your whole detox system, your glutathione system. And this is a detox system that even Tony Robbins has done, and he did like level 4 of this detox system. And then not only that, the chief medical officer who they found to do medical trials of both the hemp oil and the detox system is Dr. Chen Ruan, who is in Houston, and he runs the country's second largest integrative medicine hospital. So he's a medical doctor, but they actually also incorporate functional medicine, which is amazing. His mother was a Chinese medicine doctor and acupuncturist. He grew up here in the States and became a medical doctor, but really brought both of those worlds together. And he says in his practice that they do everything they can to help their patients heal naturally first before they go to anything like chemotherapy, radiation, the more invasive treatments. And they have incredible results working with plants and natural methods, diet. And he has been conducting these medical trials on this detox system and has found that people are literally reversing these chronic diseases and conditions, really serious stuff. We're not allowed to make any claims, but what they're doing is they're doing blood tests, all of their diagnostics before, during, and after the ultimate detox system. And it's, number one, it's incredibly detoxifying for your liver and your endocrine system. And that's your filtration system. So if you keep your filters clean, everything functions better, right? So if you're somebody who has not yet checked out the webinar on both the endocannabinoid system and the hemp oil, but also the detox system, I would click on that link and just save it on the side. It's also on our blogs. And we do take free consultations to talk about how to get you those products at the best price, because there are different options. So it can get a little confusing if we just send people directly to the website. Candida Cleanser did become distributors of these products. And there's actually also pet CBD now. So it's really amazing stuff. I would definitely recommend checking it out. This detox system, when I did it, I'm still on it. I've been pacing myself, and it's actually a detox system that you can actually pace yourself with because it's liposomal. So every time you take a dose, it's productive. It doesn't rely on building a momentum, and which a lot of other detoxes are like that. You're taking things that detox the liver, but it's not really as measurable like the liposomal. So you're just kind of throwing spaghetti on the wall and hoping that the binders that you're taking are binding it in the right timing. With this one, it's that 30-minute liposomal, your body responds, and then you start to bind it. And you'll feel it if you don't take your binder after 30 minutes. You start to feel the toxins in your body. So definitely check that out. I would love to. What I was going to say is I released liver flukes on this detox system. It was a surprise and I think that they were actually jammed in my bile ducts because I had congestion in my liver gallbladder area for quite a number of years, even before I did the Candida Cleanser. My liver actually used to be really swollen. My back was swollen basically, but I didn't know it was my liver for a long time. I did take a lot of other herbs, and it did help with time to shrink my liver, but I still always felt this congestion. So I was always looking for more, right? What can I do to help with this? And when I had gone up to level 2 on this detox system in the afternoon one day, I'd already gone to the bathroom 3 times that day. I'm very regular today, thanks to Candida Cleanser. But it was already past all my bowel movements, and suddenly around 3 o'clock, I just suddenly had this cramping right in my belly, upper belly, and I was like, oh, what's going on? And then I was like, oh no, I have to run to the bathroom. Ran to the bathroom, and I looked, and it was literally a cluster of liver flukes. And I had to double take and shine my cell phone light on it. I should have taken a picture of it, but I have a weird thing about taking pictures of my poop. I don't know, I've never done it. But I was like startled because it was a whole clump of them, and there were a bunch of them, and they look like tiny little livers. They eat your liver, and they look like tiny little livers, right? Like almost like little leeches. Super gross, and they look dead, and they weren't moving or anything. And although the liver cleanse is not doesn't necessarily have a ton of antiparasitic, it does have some antiparasitic things in it. I actually think that the 2 parasite cleanses I did before probably killed the flukes, but my body couldn't eliminate them because I wasn't producing enough bile. Mm-hmm. So what I noticed surrounding all of the flukes was some of the binder material, the black binder material, and then a bunch of bright green bile. So I think the bile production and everything, and the liver being able to function and move and do whatever it needed to do made me suddenly release that cluster. And it really did create a lot more relief in my system, I've noticed. So I highly, highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, and that's something you can start doing after you do the Candida Cleanser. We mentioned that gut dysbiosis is something that occurs inevitably when you get Candida. There's not enough good bacteria in your gut, way too many bad bacteria in the gut, and that's what gives rise to Candida. So when you get rid of Candida, now let's address this imbalance. So something like a parasite cleanse, our herbal parasite cleanse is great. Liver cleanses like this one to help keep moving, getting the bile going, because bile in itself is also like antiparasitic. It helps to flush things out. And also SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. What happens is sometimes bacteria that live in the colon, due to not enough there's many reasons, but what happens is the bacteria can actually crawl up and start living in your small intestine. That's when you don't want bacteria living in there. They cause a lot of problems. So something like our SIBO cleanse, which are really, really powerful herbs that are scientifically proven to be more powerful and effective than antibiotics. So you can take this, I believe it's a 28-day protocol that you take these herbs every single day. And with herbs, when you're working with a herbal cleanse, you do have to take it for a prolonged period of time. That's how herbs work. And so something like that can then begin to flush out parasite or bugs, bacteria that are living throughout the entire digestive system. So if something's growing in the small intestine, that gets eradicated. Those herbs also can work in the lower bowel and begin to create more of a harmonious ecosystem in your gut, all while you can also start taking probiotics, more probiotics, depending on your level of SIBO. If you have SIBO, this is one thing I wanted to clarify, is that you might have to stay away from probiotics in the early stages of your treatment because it can make the condition worse. So really the goal here is to bring your gut back into a state of harmony of biosis rather than dysbiosis. And that takes a few other protocols as well. So luckily we just introduced the SIBO cleanse because we recognize that the importance of it. Like it's not just Candida anymore. It's not just parasites anymore. There's SIBO, and another one is H. pylori that one day I hope we can get a treatment for as well. It's also very popular living in the stomach. So there's lots of moving pieces and parts. So I hope that you're walking today with a little bit of a clarity and an action plan of how to move forward. And if you have any questions, feel free to type it into the chat, or if you want to go live, we have 15 minutes. We can unmute you and we can have a direct conversation. I'd love to hear from some people.
And I did want to encourage people to search. There's actually a little search window in our Facebook, the big Facebook group for Candida Cleanser support group. And there's a little search window, and if you type in SIBO cleanse, you're going to start to see actually some testimonials that people have been starting to post, because since we've released the SIBO cleanse, a lot of people have begun trying it and they're reporting really amazing results. Even Erin, a woman in our group who's come so far, she's come a long, long way. And actually she just announced she was pregnant in the group. I was totally surprised. But she said she felt so much better after the SIBO cleanse. And she also did a cost comparison to if you were to try to buy the supplements all on your own, it would be like 2-3 times more expensive. So nobody else has created a specific SIBO protocol. You have to buy all the supplements separately, but these are the compounds that are known to help fight SIBO. And the founders of Candida Cleanser created that together so that we can offer it in this value package so that it saves you so much from actually having to buy it all separately on its own. So check that out, go into the group, search it in the search window, and you'll see some great stories.
Mm-hmm. Here, I can even post the link straight to the products page. And that's where everything is. You can find the parasite cleanse. And what people do, if you do a parasite cleanse, parasites themselves have candida. It's called hyperparasitism. They've got digestive systems, and in their digestive system, they have candida. So sometimes when you go and kill parasites, that candida inside of them that begins to decompose their body when they're dying can then come in and infect you. So what people do is do a Candida cleanser, parasite cleanse, and then a Candida cleanser. So you can plan your year and have cleanses every couple of months, and that's how you can maintain this excellent level of health. And each time, I notice I've done the Candida cleanser like 5 times. Each time I get into a deeper pocket of something, and each time I feel better. And knowing that I'm we're not perfect. I tend to have some times where I overeat sugar, or sometimes I'll stress out too much. And who knows, maybe something did start to grow a little out of control. Having a maintenance protocol every now and then is an excellent way to avoid something developing down the line, and also the die-off isn't that as bad. It's just kind of like, oh, I'm on the cleanse. I'm feeling a little under the weather, but I'm still functioning. I'm not, a comatose on the couch with like snot pouring out of my face, which used to happen. And I also did the SIBO cleanse myself this year, and I'm someone who didn't have any SIBO symptoms, and I experienced die-off in the first 2 weeks, definitely. And it was a strange die-off. It was just a little mucus, but really tired, but only like I picture my field as like this auric field, and only the outside, like couple inches of my field were fatigued and foggy, but I could feel this radiant light on the inside, like bursting with energy. So even though I was tired and had a bit of brain fog, I had so much energy, this newfound sense of energy. And I was waking up earlier and meditating more. I was more calm. I was like, this is so weird. So even if you suspect you don't have it, you can be one of those silent people like myself.
And I'm going to be honest, I started the SIBO cleanse in towards the end of November, I think. And about 4 days in, I started to have die-off, and this whole channel in my body that is sometimes still tight got really inflamed. And I was like, whoa. And I was preparing to move my whole house and was going through a lot of stress. And so intuitively what I did was I paused the SIBO cleanse. And that was actually when I did the level 2 of the liver detox that I was just talking about, and released those liver flukes. And I decided that I was going to wait until I was in a more grounded space to finish the SIBO cleanse, because it actually brought up something that almost was kind of startling and surprising for me. And it was also humbling, because I was like, well, it makes sense actually, because of all my history back in the day of all the gut issues that I used to have. So I wanted to bring that up too, of, life happens. Sometimes you could be in the middle of a big life change. I was in the middle of a big life change of moving, and it brought up a lot of stress. It brought up a lot of stress in my relationship, and it brought up, things that we had to look at in my relationship. So I was like, wow, I'm going through a lot right now. And so rather than push through it, I decided to pause it and wait until later. Also, listen to your intuition, because my intuition was telling me that my liver wasn't detoxing properly. And that's why I did, instead of continuing the SIBO, I continued the liver detox, and then I released the flukes. And that was like, wow, that definitely could have been keeping my body from detoxing properly, and why I was suddenly starting to feel so much intensity with my SIBO cleanse. So I'm excited to continue that soon. Maybe I'll do it with the group, with our VIP group coaching, while everybody's doing the CCWS. I'll continue to SIBO, and then I'll be in the live coaching like, oh, my detox will be with you all.
I've tried to lead a group coaching program with Candida Cleanser while on the Candida Cleanser. Doesn't work. You're just like, what's going on? Oh my gosh, we have a call. Hey guys. It's like, what am I doing? No.
Okay, maybe I won't then. I'll wait.
I can hold space, but
But speaking of our group coaching program, we've had some really amazing response, and we have a group of people who are all in. They're committed. They've been starting to get their membership areas set up. They're starting on their assignments. We start our first group coaching call tomorrow. And we did these calls, these 6 calls that are going to be on YouTube, so check them all out, to just give everybody an idea of what it would be like to have consistent coaching from us. And, the group is so small that we're going to be able to get to know exactly where every single person is coming from and support them in real time through the journey. That's why it is so valuable. Aga and I have on the side worked with clients one-on-one, and when you get to work with people that closely, you know exactly what's going on with them. Sometimes in the big Facebook group, somebody asks a question, and I don't remember everything that they've done, right? It's just, there's 16,000 plus people in there, and it's hard to remember every single person's exact everything. And so with this program, everybody fills out a health history, and we're going to do these steps throughout those 8 full weeks. And it's just, it's just a really great way to ensure success, because we get to really address where you are right now. And then as you continue, a week from now, exactly where you are right then. And then the next week, exactly where you are, to be able to learn your food intolerances together with our assistance and guidance, and empower you so that at the end of the 8 weeks, you have a whole arsenal of tools that you're going to know how to keep healing as you continue. So I really do hope, if any of you here have been thinking about it, if you're on the fence, definitely set up a free consultation with either me or Aga. We do have a couple of payment plan options. So, if you have a cleanse already, if you've already ordered the CCWS cleanse, you also get a discount on the group coaching package. So we'll throw up the links to set up a consultation with us as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so feel free to ask any questions. We have about 7 minutes left. If there's anything you want clarification on, or a personal issue you're working through, feel free to type it in, or even unmute yourself and let us know. I'm personally on the liver cleanse right now. I've done it once before in the summer, and then doing it again now. And I'm not sure which protocol this is. It's 3 times a day. And that's what I really love about this cleanse. It's a vial of the liquid. So you choose if you want to take a teaspoon a day, 2 teaspoons a day, or 3 teaspoons a day, or 5. And then it's similar to Candida Cleanser, where you have like your loading days where you take it for 5 days, and then you take a break, and then you take it again. So I've been doing 5 days on, 5 days off, 5 days on, 5 days off, until the bottle runs out. And my first 5 days was just like so brain foggy. I was slurring all my words and mixing things up, like putting the beginning of the word on a different word. So there was something like, I was trying to say steel-toed shoes, but I couldn't say it. I can't say it. Steel-toed shoes. And I was like, Stierstauch. My friends were like, what are you like? My friend was laughing at me because like 90% of the things I was saying didn't make sense. And I had all this congestion and phlegm coming out just nonstop. And today's my 4th day of my second 5 days on. And there's just a little residue of congestion, but it's finally beginning to slow down. And yeah, definitely experiencing, hi, meow.
That was my cat. I just wanted to say real quick, Aga, that Tony Robbins, when he did the detox system, he literally hired somebody full-time for 3 months to make sure he was on schedule with his detox, because he was doing it at level 4. He used to have really bad mercury toxicity from all the tuna he ate his whole life. And I met the woman he hired. She was like, oh my God, I just got back from all this world travel. Basically, he hired her to just follow him around and make sure he took his doses at the right time while he continued to be Tony Robbins in the world. so yeah, it's pretty. I'm proud of you for doing level 3. I haven't even gotten there yet.
It's pretty fun. So I feel like my liver's pretty good, and I want to get another bottle and do like, just keep going, bump it up to 4 or maybe 5.
Yeah, a lot of people are doing the higher intensities for a few months, the first series of cleansing with the ultimate detox, and then later down the road they can do 1 month at whatever level they choose every 3 to 6 months as maintenance was what Dr. Shade recommended.
Brian, did you have a question? I see that you are not muted, so you're live. You can speak if you like.
Thank you for all your info. I jumped right in, so there's a couple things I probably missed real quickly. Is there, when you take CCWS, you take that and the fat and that's it, or can you take the pill, the fat with the meal together, the 3 things, or just the 2?
Okay, so you want to take 14 grams of fat with the cleanse. That's the precursor of how it gets absorbed. And you don't have to have a full meal, but it's good to stimulate digestion just a little bit. So I like avocado, for example. Like it's a fat, but it's not just pure olive oil. It does work.
Without
Yeah.
the full milk.
Yeah, so it could be a snack, even like a handful of nuts, but not, don't just put it in olive oil and slurp it. You want to stimulate digestion a little bit.
Gotcha. And is it possible to briefly go over the stages? Because somewhere I missed that. Like I said, I jumped right in, and I could do it on my own too, but with the levels of the Candida, you know,
Can you? You're really, really quiet. I'm like trying to hear you with my speaker. Is there a way you can turn up the volume?
no, can you hear me any better now, or
Yes, so much
yeah,
better. Thank you.
I'm kind of yelling. Is there a way to go over the 4 stages real quickly of the Candida, or I can look it up on my own, but I sort of missed that when I jumped right in at the stage 4, stage 3.
Yeah, there is. Let's see, a place that I've actually have all of it listed. You can take a look at it. There's one. Mhm. Here we go. So in the chat, in the link, or in the chat, I just shared a link, and this is a video that explains all of the 5 stages and what to do about it. And then I believe I have a PDF, a little like infograph somewhere to make it easy.
And I would recommend that as you look through the stages, to think back in your life as well to other times in your life where you may have had those symptoms, even if you don't exhibit them now. And because those could actually be places in your system that Candida is actually kind of lurking and being dormant, and that your body's still fighting it. Because I noticed that when I was young, I had really bad IBS symptoms, but my body did get to a point where it could hold that down, and I wasn't having these crazy IBS symptoms, but just my overall immune system and my allergies and bloating and weight gain, all of these other things started to landslide later in life. And then when I did the cleanse, I actually would sometimes feel sensations or symptoms from my past kind of flare through a little bit. So just FYI.
Mm-hmm.
Would fish oil count as one of the fats, like omega-3, good quality, or is that?
It's best to eat fish, like real fish, rather than the capsules or the liquid oil, but definitely it does.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you, Brian, in the Facebook support or in the support group?
Yeah, I recently joined. Yeah, I haven't posted anything or anything, but it is, I believe that's me.
Okay, great. Because I believe I found the infograph of that describes the 5 stages of Candida, and I'll post it in there for you to take a look. And it's just this really quick, easy to read graph.
I got a feeling I'm in stage 6. I went so bad I overshot it all. I think, but we'll see. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, make sure to save all the links. If click on the links and just open them in your tab, because as soon as we end the call, all of it's going to disappear. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Great. All right.
And, if anybody here joined in late, this video will get posted into the YouTube channel as well. So youtube.com/Candida Cleanser. You can also check out the last 5 live Q&As that we did as well in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining. And we hope to see you tomorrow in the group coaching program. Ciao for now, and see you in the Facebook group.
Bye. Thanks for joining us.